Hi, Latanya. Thank you for being with us here today on Confession Box. We really appreciate it.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Would you mind just starting out, simply introducing yourself, the basics about you, and then we'll go into the story that you wanted to bring to us today after that.
Sure. My name is Latanya Copeland. I've been in the Atlanta area since 1987. I'm a native of Arkansas, small town, quaint town. I have a family, married with children, three grown children, and well, blended family, I should say. And my main business is I'm an event designer and strategist, as well as I'm a chaplain and I'm also a patient care assistant.
Wonderful. You stay busy.
Very busy.
Well, I like to sort of think of these conversations as you tell your story, there's a past, a present, and a future that I like to talk about. So, what if we start with the past? And let's ask first, actually, what is your own intention for making your story public on our show today? What's your intention?
I have a passion to create, to help inspire youth through entrepreneurship.
Wonderful. Giving back. That's great. So let's start then with the story that you've brought to tell to us today. And if you could focus first on the past, what from your past led to the story that you've brought today?
Just being very vulnerable, graduating high school as a young adult, being very vulnerable. I moved from Arkansas at the tender age of 18 and started my life all over. Everyone I knew was someone new because I went through a very difficult transition at 18 religiously. My father was Baptist, and my mom was Jehovah's Witness ever since I was 4 years old. So, of course, it was challenging. I was baptized at the age of 16 as a witness, and you know, you couldn't make any mistakes. So, of course, I made a mistake fresh out of high school. I got pregnant with my first child. And from that moment, everybody I grew up and looked up to that were adults kind of disowned me. So I started my life over when I moved to Atlanta, and it was very challenging.
I think it would be challenging for anyone at that age. To clarify, when you say that various people disowned you, you're talking family and friends, or what did that include? Who did that include?
Family, but it was families that was specifically in the Jehovah Witness organization.
All right. So you moved, then you made your own decision to move to Atlanta, is that right?
I did. I was brave.
Yes.
My father had bought me a car, my first car, and I was having some issues. So I took my youngest daughter when she was 11 months old and put her in the car, and we moved to. We drove to Atlanta, 8.5 hours.
But who's counting? Wow, that is brave. And how did that end up then? What next in your story?
I think just kind of searching for love after that situation. I I got my first job and I quickly fell in love with an older gentleman, and that fast forward it it spent into a really bad relationship. It was mentally, emotionally, and physically abusive relationship.
I'm so sorry. I know that that's part of your story that you're here to share and intend to help others who may be going through similar things. So What else will you share about that? And moving forward also, what did you learn from that?
Well, I found myself, we were in a relationship, I want to say maybe 3 years, 3 to 4 years. And at the age of 23, one day, I just decided I can't, I knew God gifted me and wanted more. I had this strong discernment that He wanted more from me. And that wasn't what He chose for me. So I prayed, and I wrote all kind of inspirational words and posted them on the mirror, so I would see them every day. And I prayed for Him to give me the courage to overcome that situation and to get out of that relationship, being by myself, so to speak, and having two children at that time. It was a very scary time, but I'm glad God gave me the courage, and I think that was the turning point when I asked for His help, when I prayed to Him. That was the turning point for me to get out of that situation. So a funny thing happened one day. I was gazing out the patio window, and my neighbor, there was a single woman that was my neighbor, and she came home, she got out of her car, and something about her, she just looked it very strong and very courageous, and for some reason it just inspired me, that I could be that person. And I started associating myself with connecting with other women groups so that I could kind of feel some of the voids, connect with some other people, and that truly just what helped me.
That's amazing that at that young age you realized that that was a particular way of helping yourself, and then you had mentioned making posts that you put on the mirror. And where had that idea come from?
To this day, I believe in my heart of hearts, and that it wasn't by chance. I do believe that God gave me one of my gifts is discernment, and I believe through prayer, He gave those words to me.
Wow. And how did that sit with you, having been treated a certain way by former family friends at one of the churches that your parents, one of the faiths that they followed, treated you a certain way, which may not be considered the most godly way to treat people, but then you were able to find your own answers spiritually. How did that work out?
I would just say, it would have to be just all God's grace. You know, He had a plan for me. I believe that He has a plan for all of us. Sometimes we don't be still enough to listen to the voice. I do believe that, especially as a believer, if if you are, and we reach out to Him, He has the plan. We all we mess up the plan along the way, but He has the plan, and He had it for me. And sometimes our decisions alter the progress.
So what came next in your story? Because I know since then you're a chaplain, you're an author, which we're going to talk about a little bit some more today with the book that you have. So how did you move from this stage in your life to the success that you have now?
Leaving that relationship it was a step that I needed to take in getting on with my life. It was a fearful one, but it took courage to do that. And from that point, I was by myself for many years. It takes a long time to heal sometimes when you've been through an emotionally or physical abusive relationship. So I was working. I've always had my own job. I've always had my own money, and I I I went to school. I have a degree in graphic design and almost a bachelor's in business administration. And I worked in the hospitality for Marriott for about 6 years, and then from there, I went to work for the airline industry. So I think it's me just continuing to stretch my own self.
How for you did you, what advice could you give someone who's in that fearful place? How did you overcome the fear to then move beyond that?
I would say prayer first, then just doing some research. And it's difficult to trust other people or to let people know what you're going through. Sometimes it's just about timing, but do your best to be open to allow someone to connect with you. Don't be afraid to look for resources, and that's probably the biggest thing that helped me connect is to look for resources and utilize the resources that I had in my community.
Were there ever times that you were really at your most down places, feeling the most discouraged? And how did you then push yourself towards seeking the resources and looking for the connections? I mean, can you empathize with people who just don't even feel like getting out of bed on some days?
Yes, and yes, the probably the most time that I was feeling that way was when I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, because I felt all alone. I was suicidal, and I think the life in me is what kept me. I tell her sometimes, I say, you saved my life. And then the other worst time I would say was when I was in that bad relationship, because I was being manipulated by someone else and just not thinking on my own, not being the woman who I am today. It's even hard for me to imagine that I was that person, that I was that person that was under someone else's control so much. I think we as a community, we as women, even men, I think we have a responsibility to be the eyes and the ears and to recognize when a situation just looks like this might not be normal. Something, because there's always signs, and something's just not right about this situation. And just us taking the time to say, it could just be a smile. How are you doing? You know, just befriending someone, because it takes for you to start to build a relationship before someone will open up to you and tell you what's in their inner heart.
That's a great point. So it's all of our responsibilities to reach out and just check on
It's all of
the
our
people around us,
responsibility.
even if we don't already have a friendship, maybe a neighbor, maybe someone we don't see come out that often. Yeah, that's really good advice. Well, so then what came next in the next chapter of your journey?
So fast forward next chapter. I went to work for the airline industry in 1998. And from 1998 to 2002, I went through two airline bankruptcies within both of them 7 months apiece. And I got married at the same time in 98. And in within that four to 5 year span, I'll say I got married. I went through two airline bankruptcies, and me and my husband separated, almost divorced. We never got back together. We divorced later, but
That's a lot.
a lot. And it was a situation where the relationship was just unhealthy. He wasn't taking care of himself, and so the relationship was unhealthy. Got to be unhealthy for me, and so we separated. And then I spent several years by myself.
Had that relationship also become abusive like the earlier one had?
Emotionally.
And I think that this is sort of an area that a lot of our audience, for better or worse, can probably relate to. I'm assuming you're very together now. You're very successful. Time has passed, and it's all together. But for folks who might actually be in the midst of it, can you maybe talk about the pain that you went through with perhaps not only that relationship there with the separation, but even the earlier one? At that age, you must have been going through pain at that time.
I went through a tremendous amount of pain. Yes, there were days that I cried. There were days that I cried on the floor. Days that I didn't feel like putting on clothes and feeling pretty, doing things. But there were also fun days. I think my children gave me a lot of strength because, when you have kids, mothers especially, you just, you have to do for your kids. And so your survivor instincts kick in, and you do what you have to do for your children.
And they were very young at the time. It seems.
They were young.
So is that something that they have any memories of? Have you talked to them about it in later years?
I have. The youngest now probably doesn't have, because we separated. Me and her father separated when she was around 4 years old. But I think it affected them in, as women, especially as a single woman. And we feel like we're strong. We can do all. Sometimes I don't need a man, but then there's the balance that's not there. I grew up with my mom and dad in the home. Even though there were challenges, I still had a very strong foundation. I had the perspective from my mom, a female, and I had a lot of input, and a perspective from a male. My kids missed that on a consistent basis, and I think I know it's a void, just like anything else else, even though they're okay and we're all right. But, you know, there's no perfect. I don't believe there's no perfect way to parent. There's lots of books, but there's, there's what life presents to you and what you do with it.
Thinking back to those times when you referred to crying and even on the floor and having the children, can you think of anything that someone could have said to you at that time that would have helped you get right back up? Obviously you went through the process and eventually did, but is there anything that could have been better if someone had said it or done it?
I don't know. I don't know.
Can you even imagine the girl that was crying on the floor, believing that she would be where you are now?
No. No.
And then you also have a book that we'd love you to tell us about.
So I co-authored with 20 other authors in an anthology. The name of the book is Finally Free. It's a transformational book, and it's all about different obstacles that each of us have gone through and what we've overcome. And just, it's a transformational book. It's really, really good.
I think you have a copy with you. Can you show it to us? Oh, beautiful.
And the cover is of butterflies, not by chance. And so this was actually, and it has the book. It's just right in the chapter. Has opened so many doors. The title of my chapter is Taking the Next Step. And basically, it just meaning I believe that no matter where you are in life, what you're going through, the change is just beyond the next step.
What is your next step?
My next step, I want to take some acting classes. I am very busy with my business into the wedding industry right now, because weddings were on hold for a couple of years due to COVID, and so that's what I'm working on, as well as I have a purifier system that I distribute. I've incorporated that into my business, the design business, so that event spaces and personal spaces are much safer, due to the COVID. And this is a personal device. This is one of the devices. This is a personal air device. And the name of the technology is Active Pure Technology. It actually sends molecules out into the airspace and scrubs the air of mold and pollutants and things that will protect you from viruses. And so I've incorporated that into my event planning business, because I am always in venues, working with lots of people, and just to keep the environment safe.
I do not see how you have time to do everything that you do, for sure. Do you feel that you've been able to tell all the story that you wanted to today with us before we go over to the confession box?
Well, I don't want to leave you because I didn't talk about my family today.
Great, perfect.
So I am remarried, and we have a blended family, and we bought a home last year. And
Congratulations.
So everything is doing so much better.
Definitely. Can the two little children that went through a lot with you, how are they both doing?
They're doing fine. Yes.
If there's a final piece of advice or words of wisdom that you can share with some young women out there that may be going through some similar things as you, what is the best advice you could give them?
Just say stay grounded. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Be very discerning. Stay in prayer, and don't be afraid to take the next step. You know, challenges and things that we go through, sometimes it's meant to stretch us. I believe that there is always a positive in a situation. We just have to be still and see what the positive is.
Thank you. Well, are you ready to look into reach into the confession box and choose a word?
Sure.
So you're going to open it up and pull out one of the cards, and you'll look at it and then show it to us, and then we'll see. We'll talk about if it relates to things you talked about today.
Okay. Oh, wow.
What does that mean to you in the context of today's conversation?
Thankful. Especially, I'll say, especially where we are today after going through witnessing so many people that have lost loved ones, friends. I don't think I know of anyone that doesn't know of some friend or family member. And so I'm just grateful. I'm thankful each and every day that I have to be able to be in good health and keep learning and be able to inspire someone.
And have you found it useful, helpful? Does it feel good to share your confession with us today, or how does it feel?
It does. It does. It feels good. When I wrote the chapter in the book, we were supposed to write 5,000 words, and before I know it, well, 2,000, before I know it, I wrote 5,000 words, and all in tears. And I think I had held in so much for so long, and I needed that release.
It's cathartic. Before we say goodbye, can you tell our audience how to find you, reach you, find your book, those kinds of things?
Absolutely. The best way to reach me is to find me on my website. It's www.essentialaffairsevents.com. That's with an S. And the book is on the website. There's a pop-up, and they can contact me. There's a contact form there. If they forget, then you can just simply Google Essential Affairs, and it'll come up.
Thank you.